Hello, my little piggies. Welcome to I Am a Bit of an Expert at Peppa Pig podcast. I'm your host, Josh Chapman, and down the line, he's still getting notifications about this viral thing. The internet sensation. I'm going to keep bringing this up. I know it embarrassed him so much. Matt Frost, how you going, buddy?
Good evening, Josh.
He didn't want this. He didn't ask for this fame. It just came to him. Now, actually, before we go any further, I'd just like to point out there's a show that we actually quite like that isn't Peppa Pig as well, which we've mentioned a few times on this show, which is Bluey, which is a fantastic show for kids, which is Australian made that Matt and I are both very big fans on. They've just had brand new episodes that have just come out. And it's a cracking show. And some bright sparks out there, a couple of mums from Melbourne, have started their own podcast covering Bluey.
Excellent.
So called Gotta Be Done, the Bluey podcast. And I think one of the ladies who's in it, I don't have their names in front of me now, I'm sorry, was already following us. And I think the other host is following us now too. And we gave them a little shout out on Twitter though. And they're really doing a good job. So by all means, get on Bluey if you're not already on Bluey, and get on the podcast. Got to be done if you are listening to Bluey, because the more the merrier on that. And we were sort of joking that we would have liked to have done something like that, but who has the time to take on two of these things really? So I'm glad that that someone else has done it, and go check it out. There's a little plug. I was sort of sending tweets to them the other day saying that we might have to do a crossover episode one day. We'll be like the Avengers.
Yes, definitely.
We all assemble and we can talk a bit of Bluey and a bit of Peppa. There's no rivalry here. The more the merrier.
But we will wear our jocks on the outside.
Yes, we'll be superheroes like Super Potatoes or Super Pedro. But this week we're dealing with My Cousin Chloé. Now, the thing about this episode, and I think you'll probably agree with me, is that it's not the Cousin Chloé episode I thought it was, because there is actually a way more famous Cousin Chloé episode, but we are not yet up to that.
No. And Cousin Chloé doesn't have a little brother yet. So
no. Which is the noisy night.
Yeah.
Which is a term that gets used a lot at our house at the moment with our 4-month-old. Is that, we've had a bit of a noisy night. To be honest, she's always pretty good, but when she's not, we have a couple of, it's like, we're having a little bit of a noisy night tonight. We're currently in the 4-month sleep regression, which I'm sure you remember back in the day when you get them to sleep for a little bit and then all of a sudden they decide they don't want to sleep anymore, which is...
You got any idea when that stops? Because we're not
it's
out of it.
It's actually quite... Yeah. Oh, you're not out of it. I was going to say, at least with Olive, it was over pretty quick. And she kind of went back into the groove, but we'll have to see how Sloaney goes. But she's asleep at the moment, so no complaints here. But no, this Cousin Chloé isn't the sort of... There's a famous meme with Cousin Chloé where she puts the stereo on and the kids all dance to it and things, and people, like to take that and put death metal on or hip hop with questionable language and stuff. But I thought that was this episode, but I jumped too far ahead. But what goes down in the original My Cousin Chloé?
So, Cousin Chloé gets dropped off for a play date, which is probably more like her mum's got to go do something, so she dumps it off with her sister-in-law. And Peppa is quite proudly telling George that, Cousin Chloé might not really want to play with him because he's quite little. And because Chloe's a little bit older than Peppa. And Peppa gets a fairly brutal dose of reality when
she Cousin Chloé basically spends most of the time trolling Peppa, doesn't she?
Yeah.
Basically, she kind of uses George as leverage to get at Peppa, because it sort of starts with Peppa kind of messing around with George and chucking a ball at his head and basically kind of being a little bit of a pain in the neck. and she's under the assumption that the good times will keep on rolling because there's another big kid coming along, and she's down with the big kids. But Chloe sort of flips the script. I don't think that she's caught what Peppa was doing to George and thought I'll teach her a lesson. I think Chloe's just being as obnoxious as Peppa is being, really.
Yeah. And look, people like to lay the boot into the behaviour of Peppa, and whereas I see that sometimes she's good, sometimes she's not, and she's not being,
which is like any kid.
Yeah, which is
I don't understand where these parents are coming from.
Yeah.
They're like, I can't watch Peppa; she's such a bad influence, and it's like, well, dude, if your kid's acting up, it's not because of Peppa.
Yeah.
It's because she's a kid. But if she's always acting up, it still ain't Peppa.
Yeah, and she's not having her best day. She is being a little bit of a pill to George, and Chloe's not bringing her A game as far as being a nice kid either. So.
No, so I don't know what's going on with all these kids this day. I mean, we had Easter last week. You could say maybe they've all coming down from their sugar highs, but it's chronologically it's a lot different. It's way forward in time. So I think they're just I don't know. There's just a little bit of I don't know, tension in the air, or I think it's just license to mess around with each other.
Yeah, look, and cousins are a weird thing. You are sort of obliged to get along with them, but
a lot of cousins.
Yeah, unlike brothers
up.
and sisters, you can play favourites with cousins a little bit easier than you can with brothers and sisters. So
yeah, it's a weirder one. I had on my dad's side, I still do have a lot of cousins. I've got over 20 cousins on my dad's side. And growing up, we certainly spent a lot of time together, and there was, a bunch of us that were all within sort of 4 or 5 years in age group. There must have been about a dozen of us, maybe more, all in that sort of thing. So you kind of have that thing where it's like it's close, it's different to friends, but it's different dynamic to brothers and sisters and things, obviously. But so there's a sort of a bit of a leeway or relationship, but you can't take it as far as you do with your brothers. You can't give them a whack or anything.
No.
Really. So it is a weird dynamic, but I certainly did spend a lot of time with cousins, older and younger, growing up. But I don't know. Are we assuming that it's Mummy Pig's sister? Does that mean that?
No, I believe that Chloe's dad and Daddy Pig are brothers. Because there's another episode where they both fall asleep after dinner, like at exactly the same time, and they look almost identical, but with different beards.
That's how you tell them apart. There's just a little bit of different clipper settings on the old on the shaver.
Yeah, I've seen that episode a few times. So I think it's based around a puppet show. They put on a puppet show, and the daddies have a bit of a kip.
That sounds pretty good.
Yeah. So it's one of those ones that really will be quite true to life. I think certainly see some of ourselves in there. So.
Yeah, that's right. So they start playing. They're sort of playing with balls and things, and Chloe's basically just making the rules up and changing them as she sees fit. Really, I wasn't particularly familiar with the games are pretty basic and stuff, but she is kind of just dancing around the rules or adjusting things that whatever works best for her to annoy Peppa seems to be the way to go.
Yeah, that's right. They play a ball game and sort of Chloe's getting in her dial saying like, do you play the real rules or the baby rules? And,
do you play street rules, or do you play hood rules, or suburbs rules, man?
And she does the same when they play Sly Fox, and she sort of owns Peppa with that. So, but all the time she's giving George a little help along. George actually ends up having a pretty good day.
He does. So. He starts off having a really rubbish day. I think he gets a bolt to the head at the very start. But
and look, to be honest, I was the of my generation on both sides of the family. I was the baby out of everybody, and
wow.
So look, full props to the little squirt getting a decent day all of a sudden, because they didn't come along too often. tended to get left out of a lot of stuff. So
it's good to have a victory every now and then.
that's right. Yeah, good on you, George.
Well, he does seem to be quite enjoying it, doesn't he?
Yeah.
He's kind of like, I've been dealing with this pain in the neck for all my life, really, and then somebody a bit bigger's come over and put her in her place.
Yeah. And George adores Peppa, but I think he's enjoying this little moment in the sun. So.
Yeah, exactly. So they play the game. They play the Sly Fox. They play the ball game, and basically, Peppa gets to a point where they acknowledge it that basically she wants to jump in the puddle. She wants to play her favorite game, but she's worried that she's going to get taken down a peg for jumping in puddles. It's not cool enough. It's not what the big kids want to do. But everybody else, Mummy and Daddy Pig, conveniently come out at the right time and say, we'll have a crack at those puddles. That all looks pretty good. And then they all get in for a good old jump in the mud.
Yeah, sort of Chloe and Peppa decide that, maybe sometimes, even though they're big girls, sometimes big girls can jump in muddy puddles too, and damn right they can. So, it's probably the first sign that, Daddy Pig treats muddy puddle jumping with quite a bit of gusto, and we find out a little bit more about his story later on, but he gets right in there, so...
Yeah, that's right. He's no spoilers, but he's a bit of a world champion puddle jumper, isn't he?
That's correct.
I always thought that maybe there was a bit more of a black, darker story where he tried to do something. He tried to take it a bit too far. People got hurt. He vowed he'd never jump in a puddle again. Or well, I don't think it's anything as dark as that.
It's like instead of cliffhanger, it's puddle jumper. So
yeah, that's right. Someone didn't make it out alive. Somebody sank into the puddle. He jumped too high and he created a sinkhole. And somebody went down the sinkhole and was never seen again. That he had to hang up his puddle boots. He thought he'd put it all behind him, and then the daughter has an aptitude for puddle jumping. There it is. He's like, oh God, it's all coming back. I can't run for my past any longer.
Damn, that puddle had 2 days to the retirement.
That's right. So yeah, not a bad little one. It is an interesting dynamic to bring in a kid who's a little bit bigger. The first time that we've seen that in here, and this is something that kind of gets played on in later episodes as well, where Peppa's sort of trying to mix it with the kids. I don't really know how much bigger Chloe is, but she looks like with Peppa's 4, she might be 6 or 7, I suppose, realistically.
Yeah.
Which is, a bit of a jump.
Yeah, and coming from, our situation here, we quite often have a variety of different age kids here, and some bigger kids really like playing with little kids, and some big kids don't. So
don't want to know about it.
No, and it's not that they're bad. They just, they just don't really want to. But we get some kids that they might be 5 or 6 years younger and they don't care. They'll get down and play anything with.
Jump in those puddles.
Jump in those puddles. That's
right. So, any closing thoughts on my cousin Chloe before we park her and look forward to seeing her again next time?
Yeah. Probably just that I do look forward to seeing her again, because she was a bit of a pill in this episode, and some of the animation work on her eyes as she sort of rolled her eyes and sort of started giving Pepper a hard time was pretty damn good.
There was there was a few little sort of slanty, I know what's going on. Yep. I'm very aware that I'm messing with you kind of thing, which was a nice little touch.
It was, yeah.
A good little introduction to Chloe, and we'll see her again soon. So, thanks a lot for listening, everybody. You can catch us on the socials at Peppa Pig Pod. Check out the Bluey podcast, as we mentioned, if you want to expand your library. And thanks a lot, Matt.
Thank you, Josh, and good night, my little piggies.
Yeah. We're playing a tune and we're singing a song with a bang and a bong and a bang. Bong, bang, boo, bing, bong, bing, bing, bong, bingly, bongly boo. Bong, bing, boo. Bing, bong, bing. Bing, bong, bingly, bongly boo.